Welcome to today's quick fix. So this is all about getting started with painting flowers, because we've looked at how to paint perfect petals, we've looked at how to paint lovely leaves, but the actual flower itself, I want to teach you about how to make sure that when you paint your flower like a daisy or a gerber or something like that, that you always get to anchor your petals perfectly, and it's all down to focusing on the center of the flower. So whenever I paint a flower, I always start with a little pencil circle, and that is how I anchor all my petals into the middle of the flower. And let me explain what I mean by that. So I've got myself a size 4 pointed round brush, some cadmium red, and I am going to paint in some petals. Now what I always do is I make sure with the fine tip of my brush that my petals begin on the inside of that circle and remain quite slender until they cross over the pencil line and they can fan out like that. And then if I continue round, repeating that rule, always just picturing these petals coming from that central point. The other great use for this little central circle is once you've painted in all your petals, it's a really handy guide for what you're going to sort of paint the center of the flower with. So it may seem like a bit of a faff to draw it in every time, but trust me, and I paint a lot of flowers, I still pretty much always do it, and you will see that in all my flower painting tutorials. So grab yourself a pencil, draw in a circle like this, and then paint each of your petals nice and spaced out, just like I'm doing here, and each one just overlaps the edge of the circle at roughly the same point. While we let that one dry, I'm going to show you another use for this central circle. This flower faces us face on, but what if we want to draw a flower that angles off in another direction? Well, instead of a circle then, you think that your central circle will be angled, so it will be more of an oval shape, and that helps you guide the direction of the petals. Now, the ones at sort of top and bottom will still be a pretty accurate and similar length to those on the flower here. However, when we come round, the sort of length of the petals is going to reflect the way in which it has been squashed in the oval. So they're not going to come out quite as far. And it's all down to the help of that oval shape that we can reflect this with our petals. And again, along this side, they just shorten. And there you have a very helpful just reference point for how your flower should look in terms of its angles. So whether you're painting just a single layer of petals as we had before, or if you're going to double them up, as I love to do in my sort of loose controlled style, all I did was paint a second petal in each of the gaps, and painting them in a translucent style means that they all show up. And it would be so easy to sort of get a bit lost in the chaos of those flowers, but because we've got that central line, it really helps. So the last little tip I want to give you is how we can create a really fun centre to our flower using the good old trusty pencil line. So I'm just going to use some black, and I've got a small brush, I've got a 2/10, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in little dabs of black, which will quickly turn your central circle into something just a bit more natural and wild. Then I'm going to clean my brush off because there's loads of paint in there already, and then I'm just going to draw the paint in to the centre, and then with my smallest brush I'm going to turn this into a type of anemone, I think. I'm just going to paint lots of little fine lines. They're all sort of spidering out all over the place. And then doing a cluster of dots in a sort of halo around the edge. And the reason I can do this so confidently is all because of that pencil circle I drew at the beginning. So I really hope that this proves helpful to your flower painting, and of course if you want all sorts of flower tutorials you can check out the rest of my YouTube channel, and of course my book New Botanical Painting, which has step-by-step guides for flowers and foliage of all types.